Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us during Lytham Partners Winter 2023 Investor Select Conference. My name is Roger Weiss, and I'm a Vice President of Lytham Partners. In this presentation, we welcome SOBRsafe, NASDAQ ticker symbol SOBR, and with us today is their Chairman and CEO, Dave Gandini, and Justin Davis, VP of Investor Relations and Corporate Communications. Before we begin, I want to remind everyone that management is available for one-on-one meetings later this week. If you've not already signed up, please send me an email at weiss@lythampartners.com or visit www.lythampartners.com/virtual and click the one-on-one meeting button request. All right, Dave and Justin, let's begin. Could you please introduce yourselves and give us a brief overview of the company?
Justin?
Well, yeah, so I'll start with introducing myself. Again, Justin Davis, Head of Investor Relations, Corporate Communications for SOBRsafe. I've been with Dave in this journey since the beginning in 2019, and it's really gratifying to see the progress we've made and how we've evolved over time to be able to speak with you today in this forum. So thank you very much for having us.
Yeah, thanks, Justin. Roger, thanks for having us. We greatly appreciate it. I'm Dave Gandini, Chairman and CEO of the company. And I've been with the company prior to actually taking on the responsibility of chairman. I raised the initial seed money that really started to investigate and further develop what led to the development of the technology. So just a brief explanation on SOBRsafe. We're the first in market with a preventative alcohol detection solution. And we believe that our tech is a game changer as we are non-invasive, hygienic in times of COVID, no blowing, no breathing, and supported by a very robust data solution or back end.
Got it. Dave, maybe the biggest question here is in terms of the market and how significant is the alcohol abuse issue in this country?
Hey, Roger, that's a great question, and it is very significant. As a matter of fact, we were super surprised that, as we did the research, that 50% of all workplace injuries involve alcohol. Think about that, 50%. And then almost 15% of all commercial drivers test positive for alcohol. So you've got these drivers on the road with alcohol in their system, our families and our wives and children are on the road. Ultimately, there's a $249 billion drag on our economy because of alcohol, drugs, and everything that entails. And the problem has worsened during COVID. We see no improvement there.
Maybe you could talk a little bit more about the function and the benefits of your technology and the products.
Yeah, would love to. Thank you very much. So I'm going to hold this up here. This is the SOBRcheck device. And how the SOBRcheck device works is there's a biometric identifier, and
just hold it up a little higher. Yeah, that's great.
Biometric identifier in a portal where we check for alcohol. And how we do that is transdermal technology. If you're drinking through your pores, you emit ethanol alcohol, and that can be picked up by the sensor and then goes through our algorithm, and we would then make a determination if you have the absence or presence of alcohol. So it's pretty straightforward. That's how it works. 10 seconds. And just a little bit more about the SOBRcheck device. It's stationary, reports in real time, 93% accuracy, hygienic, and always connected to provide data. The second piece, our technology travels. This is just coming out over the next couple of weeks. This is our alcohol band. Same technology used in the box. It's now in a smaller form factor. And for the band customers, it's continuously on, GPS tracking for location. And if there's a removal, there's an alert. So we'll have additional benefits and additional features to that band as we move forward. But the first band that comes out, this band, will be GPS tracking, on and off alert, and continuously monitoring for alcohol through an application on your phone.
Very cool. Let's talk more about I guess the corporate side. Last year, you guys went through a uplisting, and concurrent capital raise. Can you briefly review and talk about the capital raise to date? And what does that capital give you? And, what is your capabilities in terms of strategic spending?
Yeah, sure. So in 2022, we raised $19 million in 2 different rounds. And since the inception of the business back to mid 2019, we've raised 25 million. So from our perspective, we see tremendous validation from investors and validating our product in the path that we're on. But it's important to know, as part of this, that we launched as a commercial concern, Roger, in May of 2022. I think May 20th, we uplisted from the QB to the NASDAQ. At that point in time, it was a very, very difficult market to raise. Our original raise was 15. We picked up 10. We closed the door from there and moved forward. So in October, we raised the balance of that money and gave us the total for this year of $19 million. So we're in full business operations, beginning June, after we got the capital. And the runway that we have right now takes us into about Q1 of 2024. So we've got about $8.6 million in the bank right now.
That's great. And, given the capital you're sitting on, maybe it's time to talk about the markets that you're starting to attack and the targets that you're looking for. And I know you've got justice, fleet and facility, alcohol rehabilitation. How do you think about these various verticals and opportunities? And what areas are you going to focus on initially? And what's the most appealing and why?
Another good question. So think about it in terms of, we brought the business out in May, right? And we're a public concern now. We're on the NASDAQ. It was our thought process, myself and the management team, that what we really had to focus on is driving customers, revenue, and momentum. So we were initially in the fleet and facility space, working with fleet customers and insurance companies to get them not only insurance discounts, but to get all their drivers tested. So when they're in and out of facilities, they would be able to prove that their drivers were alcohol free. Now, we signed customers. I'll talk about that in a second, but I want to talk about the pivot. So what happened at that point is sales cycle 9 to 12 months. We come out in May. Everybody, because we were public, from QB to the NASDAQ, everybody's expecting we were much further along than we were. And the reality is we were still testing and piloting and early on in the first quarter of last year, and just began to sign customers. So what we did is we shifted to the justice space when we hired an individual that was from the breathalyzer ankle monitor space and had relationships, had significant long-term value in that space. He was with a company for 15 years. So when he identified this space, that particular sales cycle is 3 to 5 months. So that became our focus. So justice is our priority because of its shortened sales cycle. So what we're doing in the justice space, remember, the function's already there. They need it. They're using breathalyzers and ankle monitors. What we're doing is we're replacing tired technology with our device here or our device here. So instead of blowing in 2 to 3 minutes, we didn't talk about this, Roger, but we're 10 seconds or less on the box. So it's completely hygienic. It completely replaces this old 50-year-old breathalyzer technology. So we've made significant progress. We signed our first 2 accounts, and let's talk about in the justice space, the halfway house accounts, right? So what happens today, imagine this, Roger, you go in, you're in a halfway house, you're going to be released from jail, from prison, back into society. So you're working. So what you do is, in a facility in Montana, a customer that we signed, when an individual would come in, they'd show their identification, they'd blow into the device through a window, through a portal in a window, and 2 to 3 minutes later, somebody would then enter their information, and then they'd be able to go. If they had alcohol in their system, whatever process they would follow then ensued. Now, with our technology, you'll see why this is such a great and shortened sales cycle. They come in, they're already identified in the database, they're set up, they put their hand on our device, 10 seconds later, they walk in, they're through. If there's alcohol in the system, within 10 seconds, they're identified. So no breath, there's no spitting. It's just a game changer, and especially there's massive health concerns in that space. So that's where we're parked first. We've got a significant funnel behind it. We've already signed our first 2 customers, and it took only 60 days to get an installation from our first install to the second location because the technology is so game changing for that space. And the balance of the sales strategy is with direct sales in the fleet and facility market, which we've already have a handful of customers there. And then in the rehab space, Roger, what we've done is a customer came to us, a new provider of rehab, came to us and pre-ordered $500,000 worth of bands. So in the sales side, Justice's first 3 to 5 month sales cycle, 9 to 12 months in the fleet and facility, which we have sales guys assigned that market segment right now. And then we'll implement rehab and follow that. We'll plan on bringing in a rehab consultant for that space by the end of the first quarter. That answers your question.
That's great. In terms of the judicial side of the world, I mean, your product is faster, it's more accurate, and how does the judicial side, or really, has the judicial side recognized this yet, or what's the educational part of your mission?
Sure. So let's break this down. So when we talk about judicial, there's probation, halfway house, jails and prisons, and courts. So if you take the court and the jail and prison piece, you have to have a certified technology that's already available today. That's not our interest. Our interest is getting into the space where we can replace without having to get any approvals, state approvals, county approvals, government approvals, replacing the technology for ease of use and hygiene and safety. Mm-hmm. So the difference is between our device in that space is time, accuracy, hygiene, and the most important thing, Roger, is we have a massive data back end. So all of our users have a dashboard, they have time stamping. A lot of that's manual today. So it's a significant reduction in time and cost, and more importantly, safety. So look for us to really branch out in that market, because it's just wide open right now. And as we sign customers and build momentum, obviously we'll get from that innovator stage into the early adopter stage.
Got it. And we've talked about the judicial side. How are the other 2 verticals going?
Well, and the fleet and facility side, we have like 4 customers signed, and those customers were early, some of them early on, as early as the first quarter of 2022. And they're moving their business forward with us, and they're growing and adding as necessary. But the big turn for us occurred last week, where we have a large facility and fleet customer in the oil and gas space. We were installed in November in the first facility in Colorado. We were installed in December in the second facility in Texas. And now we are installing nationwide in an additional 15 facilities. So our first nationwide customer again, and that took about 4 months to get that space. So now we've got significant traction with that customer growing. And then we've got, I want to say, somewhere around 600 accounts in our funnel in the fleet and facility space that we produced by attending 10 trade shows, 10 alcohol conferences. And from there, we end up showing the device to over 2,000 companies. They actually use the device, and we're kind of following from there. And we just added our first sales guy in December to chase that market, and our second sales guy comes on in February. So we're just gathering. And again, remember, Roger, that was a 9 to 12 month cycle. So we've got customers signed. Now we get the big break with a nationwide customer, and just keep on following the sales process and the sales cycle.
Now, is this nationwide customer, is that somebody who is what I'll call a distribution type of company, or can you give us a little more color?
These individuals have facilities where they're in the oil and gas business to provide infrastructure. So in every location of the 17 I mentioned, they have drivers and vehicles, and they have workers in a yard and a warehouse facility. So it's actually encompasses the actual perfect a position for our product, because you've got drivers being tested and you've got workers being tested.
That's great. And these would be people who are being tested every day as they come into
When they
work?
when they come in the morning, and every time if they leave the building or after lunch, where the case may be, they test anywhere between 3 and 5 times per day. And then that information is managed by the customer via our database and date and time stamp.
Maybe that's a good way to kind of segue into, you've talked previously that SOBRsafe is not a device company, but really a data company. It sounds like you're kind of in that old Gillette razor blade model. Is that a fair analogy? And could you kind of talk about how you think about it?
Yeah, I mean, I hope we can become as successful as Gillette with the razor blade, but I think the whole opportunity, if you look at the steps in the process. So step 1 is we get the technology, we get the hardware installed in location. Step 2 is we get the data that we generate from that technology, from that piece of equipment, and we start to compile that data. The customer will then use that data to manage their business. For an example, this seems obvious, but if we've got people missing because we found 4 or 5 people drinking and they're not on the production floor, how is that impacted our production? Simple but straightforward. If you take that particular data, and let's say we find 4 or 5 drivers, fleet vehicles within a given month that we find there have alcohol in their system and don't get into the vehicle, what does that mean in terms of actuarial data and analysis for insurance companies on what if those individuals would have gotten on the road? So let's go backwards. So the process is we've got accounts that we're signing, we're gathering data, we're analyzing that data, customer is analyzing that data. The end of the road for us is working with the insurance companies to leverage our data to, even if you think, to be able to rate their customers in terms of which customers are safer, which customers are higher risk. And we are in conversation with insurers right now, but again, the focus is on signing accounts, generating revenue. So as we add more salespeople, Michael Watson, our Chief Revenue Officer, will be able to spend more time with these insurers. But we have signed one top 100 insurer that believes in what we're doing, and they'll start to do some testing and data gathering over the next 6 months or so. And on the van side, it's absolutely a data play. So think about this. In the rehab space, what's happening right now, there's about 70% recidivism. All attendees or all alcoholics that go into a rehab facility, 70% go back in the first year. So today what we do is we put an individual in, we lock the door, they go drive for 30 days, they come out, they've got a 70% chance of going back in. What's happening in the market is the cost and the fact that recidivism is so high. There's new providers with new methodology on how to manage alcohol. So what we're doing is we're combining with one of these new providers. They're going to use our band, and here's the different scenario, Roger. Individual gets out of rehab and they have our band on. If they and when they engage in drinking, there's a signal that's sent to this rehab provider via our network and said, hey, Dave Gandini has had a drink. They set up a telehealth call to try to intervene as soon as possible and then work through that problem with that individual to see if they can get that individual back on track and not drinking. So it's all a data play, right? So it's it's data, time stamping, and location stamping, and then being able to manage health from a health record perspective, that individuals to look at that individual's track record once he or she got out of rehab. So it's very significant. And there are a number of companies that are starting to form out there. And again, we only deal with the ones that are sponsored by and approved by insurance companies. So there's going to be a huge opportunity in that space. We will launch in mid-February in that space with our band. So stay tuned.
And the issue is that you would be providing information in real time, as opposed to a 30 or a 60 or a longer lag in terms of knowing that somebody has, gone back to
Today,
drinking.
there's no reporting, Roger. Today, you don't know. I mean, somebody wants to go home, go down the basement and drink. But again, individuals that wear it, because, we get feedback. Well, what if they don't wear it? Well, if they don't wear it, they do not want to get better. So there are a high percentage of these individuals with these issues that want to kick the habit and get better. They will wear the band. So
Got it.
we're excited to see what the data looks like this year. And again, it ties into insurance. Same thing, right?
Now, you've talked about the technology. Could you talk about the IP that you have and some of the protections you've built around that IP and perhaps the moats that you have against future competitors?
Yeah, we call the moat a picket fence. I guess a 20-foot high picket fence, we refer to it, but I don't know if it's painted white. But we have patents pending for both the SOBRcheck stationary device and the band. But what's more important is that every time we make an adjustment or add something to that band, then what we'll do is we will update and modify our patent. The most important part, so that covers the patent pieces, right? But the most important part, though, Roger, of what we do is the sensor and the way we've built that sensor, and then how that information is transmitted from the sensor through an algorithm that we've built. So we've got significant IP, a portfolio IP for both the check and the band. And so the magic sauce comes from the sensor through our algorithm to make that determination on if there's alcohol in the individual system or not. So yes, we spend a fair amount of time and money on a quarterly basis to make sure that we're staying ahead. Every time we make an adjustment, we make an update to our patent, and we'll be expanding our patent into Europe as we talk to some of these licensing partners. We've got that to figure out next, but that's our next step, is getting outside the US. We're in North America right now. We've got to get outside that area once we get going.
Makes sense. Just back real quick to the insurance companies. It sounds like from a marketing strategy, you're coming at it from both ways. It's both a push from the insurance companies toward customers, as well as customers who want your technology, who are kind of pushing you toward their insurance companies. Is that a fair way to think about it?
Yeah. And I think we thought initially that the top-down approach would be more effective, but it seems like when you get customers engaged, and I'm going to touch on the insurance for just a second, though, so I'll finish this comment. When you get the customers engaged with their insurers, and you look at their costs and the number of claims they have, there's a significant opportunity to guide that insurer to work with you. But let me say this, what we found over the last 60 days is self-insured or private insured companies, there's a much different, shorter path there. So an example would be 10 trucking companies get together and they're self-insured, in order to do that, they pay a really high, again,
Premium,
Deductible. Premium.
Deductible, sorry. And so and they also have funds, for safety technology. So we've started to have conversations in that space. It's much more fruitful. I think the cycle is going to be much shorter, but we go in and put our technology in, everybody becomes safer, then the deductibles would go down. And then there's already, again, dollars to spend to make these locations safer. So stay tuned for that. But I think we're going to have much more success in a shorter time frame. But yeah, it's all about insurance at the end of the day. It's all about making customers safer, reducing liability, reducing risk, and lowering overall costs. So yes. So Roger, there's something I didn't touch on, which I want to make sure I add on the sales side. So on the sales side, one of the things we did, because it takes time to hire up the appropriate professionals, is we signed 10 distributors in the US that do nothing every day, Roger, but sell alcohol and drug detection to companies. These 10 distributors have over 500 customers. And we have press release on this, and we've identified all these distributors. So they are in motion right now with our technology, again, to replace breathalyzer, same thing as a justice space, with their customers. And we're making some significant headway in gaining traction in that space. We expect to see fruit from that by sometime the end of the first quarter. And we're going to double the distribution base because they're just reaching out to us as the word spreads of our technology. I expect we'll be somewhere around double the distributors that we have right now, and which would mean about doubling the sales force. So mid-year, I would expect we'd have somewhere between 60 and 75 sales professionals selling our technology to replace the technology that's out there. So that's really strategic, and we're super excited as a layer on top of our direct sales group.
Right. And as your sales start to take off here, could you just real quick talk about who's manufacturing and supplying the hardware, and the capability to keep up with the sales as they take off?
Yes, sure. So what we did is we decided strategically that we did not want to build an engineering organization. We did not want to design. We wanted to be part of that, and we were involved in that. But what we did is we signed up with a company called BGM. They're in the Midwest, and BGM does work for the big three, now the global six. They do all types of software, hardware, pieces and parts, engineering. So, and manufacturing. They have two manufacturing facilities, one in Mexico, one in the US. They'll be manufacturing, they are manufacturing the bands, and they'll be manufacturing the stationary devices this year. And they have significant throughput. They have significant expertise, and we have a program manager on top that worked with them. All of our needs in terms of engineering, design, and manufacturing come from BGM, US company, and we'll be building this product in the US. So that's both the SOBRcheck and the band. In terms of support and service around that, again, not wanting to build something that's already out there, we signed up with another company called Helm. And Helm is a 75-plus-year-old company in the Midwest, and they do frontline service and distribution, again, for the big auto companies and number of Fortune 500 companies. So what they do for us, they already have our inventory sitting at their facility in their warehouse. So when we place an order, they ship it. Any issues with turn on and customer service, they manage that directly. So we've got a great situation with professional companies that have been in the space with power and might supporting us as we go. So all we're working through is managing the public company, sales, marketing, and then data management and further product development.
Got it. As you think about the current state of the company and its future, what are SOBRsafe's biggest value drivers right now?
Well, I think the biggest value driver right now for us is, we're first to market with the technology that we have. And it sounds crazy when you think about, okay, so we developed this technology. Nobody has this technology. I mean, why? Well, we think it's because, in this country, companies follow suit for whatever, building competitive product in the market. So there's a number of companies in that justice space, in the penal judicial space, but nobody was checking before the fact. I mean, so I think that's huge for us. We're first to market globally. And it seems funny to say it, but right now we're being reached out from, OEMs, large OEMs, from companies outside the US that participate in some integration because there's nothing out there. So that's first. Second is there's early recognition from these distributors and the customers as a replacement for breathalyzer, which is 50 plus years old. So we're the new guys on the block. The pre-order, think about it, Roger, the pre-order of $500,000, 3.5 months. Oops, lost the camera. Camera got excited. So 3.5 months before production, Roger, we get an order for $500,000. There's nothing out there right now. There is a company that has a product. Company's called Backtrack. They have a product, but they've not yet to release it in the commercial space, and they've been working on it for 3+ years. So it's that piece. The next, I don't know if you saw our press release with the Child Safety Network. We were endorsed by the Child Safety Network. They manage the safety of children across the U.S. There's 500,000 buses that they're responsible for. They came to us they want to add and will add a product on their stack. So they'll be actively selling, I think this month, selling our product to schools for bus drivers. I don't know if you've seen any of these on YouTube or in the news, but they're bus drivers, they're drinking and they're carting our students around and threatening the safety of the children in this country. So that was huge for us. And then we won an award in 22 from Occupational Health and Safety as the new product of the year. So we've got a lot of momentum, and we're focus is completely on sales, and signing customers. So we've got some tremendous wind in our sail. And again, this is the year where we come out, we're fully capitalized. We have a full sales force. We've got distribution signed. We have customers. We're in production. This is our year where we take off.
Right. I mean, there's a lot of exciting stuff going on here. Is there just one thing that you would highlight as the most exciting, or?
Boy, yeah. Well, most exciting for me is every time we sign a customer. But I think the most exciting thing, if you think about this, again, to talk about the technology and the interest in it. So you've got these OEMs and the NTSB put out a mandate by 2026. There needs to be alcohol testing in new vehicles, in the cabs of new vehicles. So based on the marketing that we've done to help start to build our brand recognition, the shows that we've attended, that over the last 75 days, 3 of the largest, all different parts of the world, OEMs reached out to us to want to test with us our technology for this NTSB mandate. So we're in the process of going through the step-by-step to get the NDA signed, aligned with these companies. But think about this. I mean, here we are, we're just out of the gates, and we got these large OEMs with this massive opportunity for alcohol testing in cab. Again, would be licensing, but I mean, that is very exciting stuff, along with a couple other companies that have come to us about integrating our technology. We just had a big meeting last week in Montreal with a company that wants to integrate. So I guess what's exciting to me is, where does this thing go? How far do we extend? I mean, we've got to sign customers, right? We got to do all that. That's just execution. But where do we go? Where does this product go? So it's super, super exciting. And there's just, again, I mean, tremendous interest and reach outs to us to expand what we're doing. So that's the exciting thing of the day.
That's great. I am seeing that I think we're almost out of time. Anything else that might be helpful in a quick,
Yeah, sure. So it's always, I mean, it's always about the management team. It's always about the leader, right? If your coach is great and you got a good team, your team will be successful. So I just want to make sure that everybody knows out there, I've assembled an extremely capable management team, of which one individual, I've got 35 years background in a number of different startups and success stories. But these individuals have new product, sales, hiring, management, financial, capital management experience, cloud scaling, software application. They can do it all. I have the best management team that has weathered the storm. I mean, Roger, we raised almost $20 million last year. Pretty significant in a down market. Great management team, great executors. Super excited about 2023.
Very good. Dave, Justin, I just want to thank you so much for your time today. We greatly appreciated it.
Thank you, Roger. We greatly
Roger.
appreciate the opportunity. Thanks.
And just a reminder to anyone out there who's not already signed up for a one-on-one, again, please send me an email at weiss@lythampartners.com, or again, visit www.lythampartners.com/virtual. Click on the one-on-one meeting button. We hope you all enjoy the conference. Thank you.